one of the world's most important oil routes is still not secure, despite a new deal that might have sounded reassuring at first. That is where we begin today. Welcome to the Automated Daily, Top News Edition. The podcast created by generative AI. It's August 9th, 2026, and I'm Trend Teller. In the next few minutes, a fresh warning over the Strait of Hormuz, a wildfire emergency in Canada, Typhoon Dolphin disrupting East Asia, new signs of security strain across Europe, and a health update drawing attention in the United States. This episode is brought to you by Lindy. Lindy is your ultimate AI assistant that proactively manages your inbox, meetings, and calendar, so you can focus on what actually matters. Find the link in the episode notes. We start with a new development in the Strait of Hormuz story. Iran says its deal with Oman, by itself, will not reopen or secure the waterway. That matters because Hormuz is a narrow passage with outsized global importance. When its status looks uncertain, energy traders, shipping firms, and governments all pay attention immediately. The message from Tehran is fairly clear. Some channels may be active, but the broader negotiations that would truly calm markets are still unresolved. In Canada, the wildfire situation in British Columbia has escalated sharply. The province has declared a state of emergency, and more than 20,000 people have been forced to evacuate. At that scale, this is no longer just a difficult fire season. It becomes a full civil protection challenge, affecting roads, shelters, health services, and emergency crews all at once. For residents, the immediate issue is safety. For authorities, it is how to manage a fast-moving crisis without letting essential services buckle under pressure. Across East Asia, Typhoon Dolphin is already causing disruption. In a new development, the storm struck Japan's Okinawa region, while China moved to close ports ahead of its approach. That combination tells you how seriously officials are taking it. When a storm affects both a population center and major port activity, the impact spreads quickly from canceled travel and damaged infrastructure to delayed shipments and broader supply chain strain. It is the kind of weather event that can ripple well beyond the areas directly in its path. There were also grim developments tied to the war around Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russian drone strikes killed a 3-year-old boy and his grandparents near Kyiv. Even in a conflict already defined by repeated attacks, civilian deaths like these remain a stark reminder of how vulnerable ordinary families are. And in neighboring Bulgaria, officials said a drone exploded in the country's airspace, though no damage was reported. Taken together, those two developments underline both the human cost of the war and the continued risk of spillover beyond the battlefield itself. Elsewhere in Europe, security language is growing more severe. In a new update, a German minister said the country is facing daily hybrid warfare after a suspected drone attack. That phrase matters because it suggests Berlin sees isolated incidents as part of a broader pattern rather than random disturbances. Hybrid warfare can mean a mix of sabotage, cyber pressure, covert operations, and intimidation. The political effect is significant. It pushes governments to rethink not only defense, but also infrastructure protection and domestic resilience. Another security-related headline came from Turkey, where a minister said a defense pact involving Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia is technically the same as NATO's Article 5. That is a striking comparison, because Article 5 is shorthand for collective defense. An attack on one means a response by all. Whether that analogy fully holds is another question, but the message was clearly intended to signal seriousness and strategic unity. In the same broader region of European politics, the leaders of Serbia and Ukraine said they want closer economic ties, a notable move that may reflect changing priorities and fresh diplomatic calculations. In Indonesia, officials shut all access to Mount Bromo after a wildfire spread in the area. Mount Bromo is not just a tourist destination, it is also an important local landscape and economic site. Closing access suggests authorities believe the fire risk is serious enough to outweigh tourism and routine movement for now. It is another reminder that wildfire threats are not confined to one continent this week. And two final stories to close on. A report said former U.S. President Joe Biden's cancer has spread, according to his son. News about the health of a former president will always draw broad attention, not only because of the personal dimension, but because of the public role he has continued to hold in American life. Meanwhile, in Germany, the transport minister said Deutsche Bahn executive bonuses should be tied to performance targets. That may sound technical, but the political message is straightforward. If rail service is under pressure, leadership pay should reflect results, not just status. Thanks to our sponsor, Prezi. Prezi helps you create stunning AI-powered presentations in minutes. Find the link in the episode notes. Those are the top stories for August 9th, 2026. From energy security and extreme weather to conflict spillover and political accountability, the day carried no shortage of consequential updates. Thanks for listening to the Automated Daily, Top News Edition. I'm Trend Teller, and I'll be back with the next briefing.